shit. Here we go.
The original.
Oh, man.
What up, Moose?
Man, there is so much to talk about, Chacha. There's too much to talk about tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moose sighting. Hit me with the moose emoji in the live chat. Hit it.
The moose emoji.
What's going on, Moose? What's happening, dog?
Man, we got a Manzana event. You know, a Manzana event. For those that don't know Spanish, we got an Apple event. We got to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
How does it relate to 5G? How does it relate to the industry? You know, what does that mean for your wallet?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, is there going to be meaningful updates? What did they talk about the Vision Pro? Right? The watch.
Yeah, there were some other devices. Facts. Yeah.
Right. I mean, man, where to begin? There's just endless amounts of conversation we can, talk about on this. So where do you want to start?
Man, let me just do the screen share first of all, and then we'll go through, I guess, what you'll see when you go on the Apple page. Let's talk features. Let's talk pricing. Let's talk cellular. Let's talk the network. How this advances the population of 5G phones. We talk about that every year, Moose. Like, how important is the iPhone to 5G adoption? It is the one, right? Even though you're always like behind in some respects, in terms of like the latest and greatest cellular technology in a way and Wi-Fi, but it is the only way for the industry to proceed because it is the phone. It is the North American phone. Our channel is a US based channel. I mean, obviously some of it translates international, but it's mostly the USA when we discuss these things. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Of course. Yeah. Of course.
All right, let's go ahead and let's do the screen share piece. Let's just leave the phone up there so people can kind of see what you will encounter when you go to the Apple webpage. Let's say you want to do a little bit of research, you want to do some investigation, you want to check out the specs, the different deals and promos on carrier pages and stuff like that will be available. But this is it, folks. This is the iPhone 15. We got 4 devices, Moose.
Yeah.
The entry-level iPhone 15 with the standard 128 gig storage comes in at $800. And it's let's talk about the price, Moose.
Right.
Okay, so it's $829 if you buy it through a carrier, right, Moose?
Right.
It's $799 if you buy it unlocked from Apple.
Right.
So and the advantage to having an unlocked device is that you can move around networks with it. You could take it wherever you want to go. You want to go international, not have to worry about locks and things of that nature. When you go to resell the phone, you don't have to do that. There's advantages to the unlocked model, right, Moose?
Right. The the best way that I can talk about it is like this, right? So if you are a network enthusiast and you have multiple different eSIM profiles, right? You want an unlocked phone. 100%.
Yeah.
You want an unlocked phone, right? But also you may consider getting the iPhone upgrade program directly from Apple, right? Because you assume that every year there's going to be a better modem upgrade, right? But we'll get there later on in the show, right? Because
absolutely,
we have some interesting facts that we got to talk about when it comes to these phones. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, so we got the pre-orders opening up the 15th of September. The iPhone 15 starting at $799. It goes up $100 for each storage upgrade, which can you get the terabyte option on the regular 15, Moose?
No, I don't think you can. Let me check.
Okay, so you're going to probably max out at 512, right? So it'd be 128, 256, and then the 512. Yeah, and then I think the iPhone 15 Plus is going to work the same way, but the phone comes in at an entry-level price of $899, right? So the slightly larger display, the slightly larger battery, everything else I think is basically the same. Right, all phones have USB-C. It's a USB-C is not a pro feature.
Right.
I was trying to explain that to some folks in a previous video. They're like, "Oh, maybe the Pro model will only have the USB-C because that's what they did with their iPad." And I was like, no, it's not a pro feature to have a USB-C charging port. When you think about it, like they're forced to do it, right? They're forced to go USB-C. Shout out to the EU. And in order to streamline their production, manufacturing, bill of goods, and all that stuff, or bill of materials, it was just better business practice to just do it all USB-C, not split up markets and all that nonsense.
Right.
So that's what you're kind of working with, right? Yeah, that's the pricing on those basic ones. Now or I should say the base level phones.
Right.
With respect to the colors, I see a little bit of diversity. It might be cool for someone to go with like some of these off blues and greens. There's like what appears to be some kind of a yellow thing happening there. I don't know if that's a pink or a red. It's hard to tell. Let's click on the 15. All right, so they got a blue, a pink, yellow, green, and black. And then in the 15 plus, same colors. So, you pick your color. Storage, we got 128, 256, and 512. And then, of course, you can purchase through your carrier. Maybe you got a trade-in deal that you want to take advantage of. As of right now, Moose, I think it's important to say it. The carrier deals, it's kind of more the same. The who's who when it comes to those deals, which we'll talk more about it. It's what we expect.
And by the way, we got to talk about that. The Wall Street Journal this morning did a very good piece that I definitely want to talk about. We're seeing more of the same, right? The Verizon and T-Mobile are pushing folks to the higher plans because if they get the higher plan, they get more trade-in credit. Okay. For example, Verizon is offering any iPhone, any condition, if the customer, new or existing, is on the unlimited ultimate plan. Very interesting. Any device, any condition. So any iPhone, any condition. You can trade in an iPhone 6.
They did that in the past, Moose, right?
This is new, in my opinion, to the any condition iPhone. They've done any condition Samsung, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But any condition iPhone, like for example, I know, AT&T since February has been doing the any Samsung, any condition, right? So we're talking Note, we're talking S series, Flip or Fold series, right? But any iPhone in any condition, Chacha, this is big deal. Now, what's T-Mobile doing, right? T-Mobile is doing, the max trade-in, $1,000 off with the Go 5G plan, like the premium Go 5G plan.
The next plan. Yeah.
The top plan.
$100 plan, Moose.
It's a pretty big deal, man. It's a pretty big deal. Personally, am I happy about it? No, because not everybody necessarily wants the top end plan. You know what I mean?
I do. I know.
Not everybody needs it. Not everybody needs it.
Everybody likes the flexibility of different options, and the worst part about the T-Mobile situation is the fact that they're not mix and match. That kills me, man.
Right.
Because people would like to have a couple of start lines and a couple of ultimate lines, and they want to mix things up, man. But but the deals, they can be had. You just have to kind of be able to meet the requirements of each carrier. You have to read the fine print. Folks, do not purchase a new iPhone through a carrier until you read through the terms. Which plans qualify, what your trade-in is worth, those types of things. The 15 Pro Moose comes in at $999.
Right.
The Pro, and it comes in at I think a 256 gig storage option. Right. So
so that's something we got to talk about, Chacha. We got to talk about this.
Right. They boost the storage by being on a Pro model, and then the 15 Pro Max works the same way. It comes in at $1199. Go ahead.
So the way that I see it is like this. They have removed a pricing option from the market. They're not giving you better storage for the same price as last year. They have removed the 128 gigabyte option from the market for a Pro Max series, right? From the Pro Max series.
We're correct.
Right, from the Pro Max series. The issue that I have with this is that for a lot of people, right, they just needed the 128. They were doing just fine with 128, right? I'm one of those people. I never got to the breaking point, but now in order to get the biggest phone screen size and with the best features, I have to pay an extra $100. Now, some people could say, you know, but for an extra $100, you get, you know, double the storage. I never hit the storage, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But what is a big deal to me though, Chacha, is that this phone, the Pro series, did not get a price increase similar to what the 15 did, right? So the 15, like we just said, like what you just said in the beginning, which was if you buy it directly from Apple, it's $799. But if you buy it through a carrier, it's $30 more.
Yeah.
Different situation when you go to the Pro models is that there is no pricing change. What you see on Apple.com is exactly what you see on T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. Now, some of the folks in the comments section here in the chat, they're saying that they didn't really do much, you know, 2x2 MIMO for Wi-Fi. Let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. The Pro model is going to be the only phone you want to get moving forward because that is realistically the only model that is actually going to get meaningful upgrades. If you look at it closely, and we've been talking about this, Sneed and I, for a couple of hours now, what they did was essentially the iPhone 15 is a repackaged iPhone 14 Pro. Exact same processor, exact same cellular modem.
Spec'd out,
nothing
identical. Yeah.
Exactly the same.
USB-C, right? That's
USB-C. That's it. Now, something interesting. The Pro series this year has actual changes underneath what they showed off. Forget about the camera. We're here about the network technology. We're talking Wi-Fi. We're talking cellular, right? This year, the iPhone Pro series is the only series that has Wi-Fi 6E. Big deal, Chacha. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so the Wi-Fi 6E is a welcome addition. I kind of wish, you know, they would for once be up to par with, you know, the cutting edge, like maybe introducing Wi-Fi 7, right? That would have been more innovative, but it's an upgrade from the last generation. So we'll take it. I'm a little bummed out about the 2x2 MIMO on the Wi-Fi. You know, I again, another laggard moment with respect to Wi-Fi on the iPhones. You know, kind of trailing the market with respect to the Galaxy. Like if I'm a horsepower and, you know, smartphone user, I'm looking at the Galaxy and saying my last year Galaxy is more powerful than this year's iPhone.
Right.
With respect to cellular, with respect to Wi-Fi.
100% agree. The iPhone is barely catching up to the S22 in terms of the Wi-Fi capabilities, you know?
It's almost like they just punt Wi-Fi.
You see, this is the thing that I've always wondered, right? Is that I know that for normal consumption, right? Normal people. First of all, let's take a step back. Hold on. How many ILECs, how many home networking routers, like, you know, the T-Mobile home internets of the world, Verizon home internets of the world, Comcast Spectrum, AT&T Fiber, Frontier Fiber, CenturyLink, Lumen, all these players, right, that they do home broadband to whatever extent, whether it's wireline or fixed home wireless. How many of them actually have a Wi-Fi 6E router?
I think
do we even
most of
know?
them do now.
Does Comcast? Yes.
Right.
AT&T Fiber? No. Verizon Fiber? No. CenturyLink? No.
Wait, Verizon does, Moose.
Verizon Fiber. Not the fiber now? Okay, fiber. Excellent. Does the home internet do it?
Yes.
Okay. Does T-Mobile's do it?
Yes.
The new version, the latest.
The newest ones, yes.
The newest and latest. Right. Okay. So what I was trying to get at is there's not that many players yet, right, that it's widespread enough. By the way, even the Lambo is still ahead of its time, right? The Asus router, it's still ahead of its time because there has only been one generation upgrade from that, and it hasn't really been that big of a generation upgrade. They still don't have Wi-Fi 7 routers in plentiful amount. And in my opinion, still Wi-Fi 6E is not.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Wi-Fi 6E, and
Right.
I think it's fine. I am a little disappointed, Moose, that it's only in one, in the Pro model.
Correct. That's
They
another
didn't make it
issue.
a standard. I always look at the cellular and the Wi-Fi as this should be standard.
That's another issue too, is that so Broadcom, right, is the traditional chip vendor for the Wi-Fi. They clearly did not get the contract for the 15 base model, right? I call them the base model, right? Is the 15s, and then the Pro is the upgrade, right? The one up from the base model, right? The 15 base model didn't get the Wi-Fi 6E. Why? Right? You have to start thinking why. And then there was a comment earlier, right? That the USB-C on the regular iPhone 15 and Plus model is gimped transfer speed compared to the Pro.
Yeah, the Pro model is the move, man.
Right. So
It
it's
really
like
is.
everything is gravitating towards, if you want the latest and greatest iPhone, do not buy the regular 15. Buy the Pro. Buy the Max. Actually, 100% buy the Max because you actually get the camera feature on the Max, You also get the spatial video, which we are going to talk about later, right? Which the Vision Pro, which we feel now more and more, the Vision Pro is going to have some type of dotted line cellular connectivity. And what I mean by that is that maybe for the first generation, you're definitely going to need the cameras from the iPhone. You're going to leverage a lot of that. They're building the ecosystem. They're building a platform, right? It's going to use your iPhone. It's going to use a lot of things. But then possibly version 2, it's going to have the Qualcomm chip. We got to talk about that, Chacha. Breaking news on Tuesday morning before the announcement. Qualcomm deal with Apple. It's huge.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll kind of go through the phone first, and then we'll talk about the future of the phone. I think that's important. With respect to colors for the Pro models, it's more the professional grade colors, right? They're not the bright, flashy pink, yellow, green, and stuff like that. You're getting more the subtle, serious colors. All right, so we see black. I see natural titanium, blue titanium, white titanium, right? And they're actually quite attractive. I like those finishes.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I'm getting an iPhone 15 Gen phone, I'm not looking at a 15 or a 15 Plus. I have a 14 Pro Max. Why would I go to a 15 or a 15 Plus? Right? So I think the move for me is to get either a 15 Pro, but I think in my application, the 15 Pro makes more sense, especially for some of the features that aren't even on the regular Pro, including the camera stuff, right? Like
Right.
there's a specific lens on the larger phone, which means there's going to be specific features on that phone.
Right.
So again, if you are the camera enthusiast, if you need a larger battery, there are advantages of the larger display. There's a reason to get the Pro Max. It does exist. I think kind of naturally in this progression as we look at storage options, like here's the 15 Pro, 128, 256, 512, and then the terabyte. You go to the 15 Pro Max, you take out the 128. You mentioned how somebody would be coughing up the extra money in a way. But I think what Apple really wants to do, Moose, is get as many people on the most expensive phone as possible, right? So they're giving you a reason to get a Pro by making the 15 lesser, and then they're giving you a reason to get a Pro Max, because you're getting an extra camera sensor and some features, I think cellular wise, you want to be on a Pro because of the Wi-Fi, the connectivity piece. And in the box, by the way, folks, you're getting the phone and you're getting a USB-C charging cable, USB-C on both sides, just so you guys know. With respect to features, I don't know, looks like, you're getting a better display. You are getting dynamic island. I think on all phones now, including the 15 and the 15 Plus. Better zoom, because of that improved Pro camera. Battery life is supposed to be a little bit better on the Pro models. Faster data rate transfers, through the USB-C cable and stuff like that. I think we're looking at something worthy of being on a Pro and not being on the entry level. I think folks that don't care about specs, Moose, if they're coming out of an iPhone 12 or 11 or something, they can get a 15 and be happy, right? But if I'm in a 13 Pro, Moose, do I want to rush out and get a 15? Or if I'm in a 14, do I want to rush out and get a 15?
No. If you are on a 13, you have to get a Pro model. If you're on a 14, and only if you're on a iPhone upgrade program and you have to upgrade, because there's no point in you having that plan unless you upgrade. I will say this. There realistically isn't that many changes from an X65 modem to an X70 modem, which is the new modem on the Pros. However, there are some that I want to go over with you since we're talking about that, right? The differences. So
is that confirmed? X70 on this new iPhone Pro?
That is confirmed. Yeah, that's confirmed. It's an X70. 60% improved power efficiency. That's really good. So that means that whenever you are using 5G and 5G plus, aka C-band, right? You will be 60% more power efficient, which means that you will have 60% more battery life when you're doing those tasks. That's great news because the iPhone's battery life didn't increase. It's the exact same as the previous ones.
So any battery efficiency improvements is on the system side, not on the battery capacity side.
Exactly. Not on the battery capacity. Yeah, exactly. Not on the battery capacity side. It's all on the chip and on the new chip, the now considered the A17 Pro. They changed the nomenclature. It's no longer Bionic. It's now Pro. So that's interesting too, right? It's a 3-nanometer process, right? From TSMC, right?
Were they on a 4-nanometer previously?
Oh, they were at 5, man.
Okay, so that's a pretty steep,
Yeah, it's pretty big. And actually, hold on, let me double check on that. Nanometer size. Oh, sorry, it was at a 4. So now they're at a 3.
Okay,
yeah, they're at a 3. Yeah. So, again, more power efficiency, all this other stuff. Now, here's the other one. You can do on the X70 up to 8 carriers of mmWave aggregation.
Okay, we've been able to do that for a while. So that was last generation, right?
So not a big deal. Not a big deal. You can do this. Actually, no, it's the exact same. They haven't changed anything.
Do you think there's going to be improvements to millimeter wave antennas? Any type of aggregation enhancements, because now we got to start talking about NR standards,
right?
Standalone 5G, right, Moose? So are we going to get a 3-carrier aggregation NR situation, 4-carrier possibly?
Well, let me look at the details here. Give me 1 second because I'm trying to compare and contrast the previous to this here. So hold on.
Yeah, that's really the question. I think, is somebody gonna Moose? There are people who are gonna say they want the latest and greatest, but is it worth it?
So the X70, it's a 4-carrier aggregation, FDD or TDD from standalone 5G. So
okay, so would you say that's important to potentially someone on the T-Mobile network?
Yes.
You would have 2 carriers of N41. You would have an N71 and an N25.
You know what's interesting? When I'm looking over and comparing it to the X65 modem, it does not say about carrier aggregation with standalone. It just says that there is carrier aggregation, but I believe it's LTE aggregation with one SA band. Sorry, NSA band, one NSA band.
Well, we've had multiple 5G carriers with multiple LTE carriers.
Right.
Right. Or what was it? No, a single NR carrier and multiple LTE carriers. We've had that.
So PA speed testing on the chat. Thank you so much for the heads up. So basically what he's saying is the X70 increased one carrier aggregation band on NR.
SANR. Got you.
SANR. So again, is it worth the upgrade if you're only adding one additional band? And by the way, which carriers can actually even use that? Well, AT&T can, right? The 3.45, right? DoD plus the 3.7 plus the N66 or N2 or N5. So you have
so they're
multiple
in play.
options right there.
But
Right.
I think what it's really about, Moose, is the future proofing. Right. So like the conversation we're having next year is all those carriers plus potentially N30 at play.
Right.
So it's like any type of, upgrades to the network or modifications to the network over the next 2 or 3 years has you covered.
Right. But
they are going to migrate spectrum to the NR side, so we'll be ready for it.
I think it's going to be sometime in the next, 18 months that you'll be seeing more and more bands start migrate over. But here's the problem, Chacha, right? Not every single cell site has standalone ready,
I mean, all the new ones that are upgraded are.
Well, in the sense of they haven't been turned on to SA yet, right? I know Sambar, right, in the article that you were talking about in the video earlier this week.
Yeah, Chris Sambar was speaking about it, and we kind of got what we thought was coming, Moose. They're doing standalone over data only connections. That's the same playbook that Verizon's been using as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing that I'm also noticing. So Verizon's situation, right? Besides band 5 in some areas, they're going to have to do some refarming, right? Because they have 3.7, they have band 5. So unless they're comfortable with just those two bands for SA, right? Then I think they're good. I think Verizon's ready to go.
Well, Verizon's got an N48 carrier they're going to start playing with soon, Moose.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, so you got your 2 channels of N77, and then you got your N48 contribution, which we're anticipating very soon. And in some markets, like mine, they hold N5. And in other places, they're doing N2 or N66. It just depends on the holdings. You know what I'm saying, Moose?
Mm-hmm.
So the carriers are going to engage in 4 carrier aggregation NR over a standalone network. And I mean, to me, that just screams 2024, and I'm good with that. But I'll have the phone that could do it if I want an iPhone. You know what I mean? So you'll be future proofed, I suppose. All right, so we talked Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
We talked cellular.
Yep.
Let's not be remiss and forget to talk about Dish. Full band support on Dish. Voice over NR enabled, Moose, right? Did you get confirmation on that?
Yes, voice over NR support. Yep.
Yeah. So, full band support for Dish. Voice over NR is there. Full certification for the Dish network. Whether you're doing Boost Infinite, Boost Mobile, whatever. So we're there. This phone is the jack of all trades.
Now there is one thing that I wanted to share as well, Chacha. For a lot of us that are in the community, we have IoT devices, right? That run through various different apps, right? Ecobee, Nest, thermostats, Blink or Ring, home security systems, Apple HomePods, Amazon Alexa things, whatever, right? All of these IoT devices currently do not talk to each other. However, there's this new protocol coming into play called Matter. And if you look at the fine print in the tech specs of the Pro series models this year, it says thread networking technology. So what does that mean for us, Chacha? That means that Apple squeezed in something very, very relevant that is coming more this year and a lot next year, which means that all of your IoT devices will be able to communicate with each other And the way that they are trying to do this from an Apple perspective is that your home app, the home app, that app will be able to control everything. We were seeing a couple glimpses of that in iOS 17 where you can see the cameras, you can see it on your watch, you can see the thermostats, and you can manipulate the thermostats through the home app. Everything is trying to be in one app. So that's something that we also got to mention to the community, is that, once again, if you want the latest and greatest features, you have to be on a Pro model. And ideally, you get on the Pro Max for this year because the camera features are better on the Pro Max model.
Yeah, it's tangibly better. It's just, I think for some people, Moose, this the cost. They'll look at that and say, "Oh my God, man, so expensive." $11.99. If somebody's coming out of an iPhone XR, Moose, could you imagine what they're looking at right now when they see the price tag on a 15 Pro Max?
Man,
wasn't a XR like $600 when it was new, or $700?
Man, that's going to be massive. But then at the same time, people are going to be like, there's inflation, there's this, there's that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, the Pro Max didn't have a price increase. All it did was they removed a data tier, a storage tier. That's all it was. Oh, and by the way, Chacha, we got to talk about this, which it was in the keynote. It's not on the page, right? And by the way, this is also for the 14 series as well. If you are in an area where you see that SOS, if you don't have any cell phone coverage, you can pay AAA for roadside assistance now.
They have that. They got the satellite. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think we're seeing the evolution each year. We're getting closer to a situation where, the SOS, you're always going to be connected, call and messaging, your iMessages will go through all those types of things. It's a nice feature to have. It's good. It's not a game changer, Moose. I'll be honest with you. How many people are in that position or situation and how frequently, but peace of mind is peace of mind, man. And innovation is good.
Right. But again, one of the things and I guess this is just something that I'm like, if I was a regular customer, Chacha, why would I need to upgrade? Realistically, I don't care about one additional carrier aggregation, it's like, it's so minimal right now. Really.
What's going to be the best-selling model, Moose?
I still
15 Plus, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max.
I still believe that the most popular selling model is going to be a toss-up between the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro and the 15 Plus. The reason...
So the 15 and the 15 Pro Max will be the least sold?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a feeling, because if you think about it like this, Chacha, I can get all the same features minus a camera, right? If I just want a big display, I just get the Plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I now have the same OLED technology as the Pro. I might not have as nice of a, the case or the actual chassis of the device is not as nice.
Yeah, titanium versus stainless steel, right?
Right. It's like, who cares? But, for those people, it's like, they're thinking about it like this. They're rationalizing it like this. I just saved $400 by not going to the Pro Max, because remember, also the taxes on an $800 device versus a $1,200 device. In Los Angeles County, man, it's going to be over $125 just for tax on the Pro Max.
Probably worse in Chicago.
Maybe. It's really expensive. It's really expensive. But go ahead.
Crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say, oh man, so you got taxes. A lot of people are probably just thinking about this, Moose, is what's going to be my best trade-in deal so I can optimize what I get from either my trade-in or a promotional offer from a carrier. AT&T, in my position, I still think they offer the best deal, because you can have an entry-level unlimited plan and get the same deal as someone who has the premium plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or new and existing, doesn't matter. I still think AT&T leads the way in that respect. They offer the best deal.
Right.
I think Dish offers a good deal too with their little membership program. $60 a month gets you a brand new iPhone 15, valued up to $1,000, and you don't even have to have a trade-in. $60 a month for 3 years. What do you think of that, Moose?
$60 a month, Chacha, in this economy? That's a lot of money, man.
$60 a month for the phone and the line. You don't even have to trade in a phone, Moose.
Yeah.
You know, that so if it's just monthly cost, I mean, hell, isn't the 15 Pro Max going to be $55 a month by itself if you finance it over 2 years?
Let me check here. Well, actually, you're on the page right now. You can check it out
$50.
right there.
It's $50. If you buy a 15 Pro Max entry level storage, 256, it's $1,200. It's $50 a month, right?
Yep, 256.
So Dish is basically saying Boost Infinite will give you, up to 1,000 on any iPhone. I think it's up to 1,000. It might be up to 8. I'm not sure. I think it was up to 1,000. $60 a month, and they give you that 30 gig plan. It's 30 gigs of high speed data. Then I don't know if they throttle or if they just slow you down, like the whole congestion terms.
Yeah.
And that's the deal, man. I mean, I use more than 30 gigs on pretty much all my lines. But AT&T's deal is good. The T-Mobile deal is good if you have their most expensive plan, which is $100 a month. Verizon will give you good deals on the phones as long as you're not on the entry level unlimited, right? So you just kind of have to tread water lightly, man. You got to make sure you look at your trade-in terms, look at your promotional terms, and of course, you're going to be locked in for a few years with those installments,
Yeah, that's exactly what the Wall Street Journal said in their article this morning was you're going to have to love your carrier because you're going to have, like, if to save money this year, you have to do a trade-in, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do a trade-in, it is what it is, right? You're going to pay full price. There's very few areas that you can, like, maybe, depending on how certain carriers are selling the certain models, we may see the same deal that we saw last year, Chacha, that started in Thanksgiving and it ended like in mid-January from AT&T, which was you get a $5 a month $5 a month iPhone Plus. 14 Plus. Right? They were doing that for a month and a half, or actually almost 2 months. Right? So multiple different things we can talk about there, but that's all speculation at this point. We can only go off of the facts, right? That this is the offers for the launch.
Yeah, right. They could reaccelerate some promotions through the holiday season. They might get more aggressive in trade-ins.
Right.
They might create some terms, like you were talking about, like broken phones and stuff like that. That can make things attractive. Hell, if I can pull an iPhone 7 out of a drawer with a busted display and a failed charging port and they'll give me $800 for it, right? I mean, that's a deal. All right, Moose. The elephant in the room, man.
Oh, man, we got to talk about this. Yeah. Set it up, Chach. Set it up.
All right, so Apple extended their partnerships with Qualcomm. Qualcomm is going to continue to provide Apple with cellular modems for the foreseeable future. And it's a multi-year deal, Moose. It's going to be good through... And you remember the original deal, Moose? It was a few years ago, right? And it was for, I think, 5 years or something. So they extended it an additional 3 years through 2026. Now, there's something I want to make sure we understand here. One of the things, and I mentioned this to Moose, is just because they have a deal with Qualcomm doesn't mean that they aren't doing anything in-house. But to me, and I agree with Moose, he offered the same kind of sentiment. This is a clear indication that Apple and their in-house modems simply are not ready to compete with Qualcomm. And if they were, why would they feel compelled to have this deal?
So if everybody in the community remembers when we were first doing the 3+ hour long podcast back in 2020 during the pandemic, we had a guy on the inside that was testing the X60 modem against the Apple modem. The exact same phones, different modem, right? And at the time, the gap was 8%. 8% difference at the time. Okay? And that 8%, we're talking across the board. Signal strength differences, data speed differences, upload speed differences, 8%. I agree with Chacha when he says this, that it could have been up to 15 to 20% difference now. Huge.
Yeah.
There's no, think about it like this, guys. Okay. Very simple to understand this business practice that they just did on us. Okay. If my competitor, my direct competitor, is also my supplier, and I have a contract for their modems in my phones until 2026, that means I only have 2 more modems left. I am running out of time. I have to speak to my engineering team. I have to speak to my VP, and he has to tell me the truth. Do you think in 2 years we can pivot from Qualcomm to our own modem? Yes or no? The answer was obviously we need more time.
Yep.
Because there is no reason for this deal to have been done literally within minutes before the iPhone launched the 15 series. The Apple launched the 15 series. This was insane timing, guys. You have no idea how this looks. That basically signaled to Wall Street, Apple's purchasing of Intel will require more time.
Yeah.
The Intel modem division. Anyways,
it's a clear indication, Moose, that they weren't ready. I would even go out on a limb and say, if there was an 8% performance difference, 2-3 years ago when the original Intel purchase was made, right? Somehow, some way, since that time frame, Qualcomm has leapfrogged whatever Intel Apple had developed beyond 8%. So not only was Apple not able to close the 8% gap, I believe the gap got bigger.
Right.
Which it's good and bad. The reason I say it's good is now we know that the iPhone is going to have a very good, high-quality Qualcomm modem. The bad is we're not seeing Apple being a competitor yet in the market.
Right.
When Apple can compete and say, our chip or our modem is as good or very, very close to Qualcomm, then you have something. But they're not going to let what happened like last time, Moose, where they were using the Intel and the Qualcomm modems, and people had different experiences on the phones.
No, it's terrible. Now, this segues into, but we're not going to go there yet, but it does allude to the possible reason why the Vision Pro does not have a cellular modem on the actual unit itself.
Yeah, it's a Wi-Fi only device.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I believe the reason why the Vision Pro does not have 5G is because it requires Apple, for their first generation product, to integrate a modem that is not integrated into their SoC, their system on a chip.
Which harms
They told us,
efficiency,
yeah,
right? Which
power
limits
efficiency,
engineering
right?
and the design. Yeah.
So we have been told for years now, the goal was to have an A series chip, right? Their own processor, but have the modem integrated into the SoC, just like the Snapdragons from Qualcomm, right? Everything is in a system on a chip. It's one package. You have your RF, you have your modem, you have your Wi-Fi, you have everything in one chip, right? Why is that relevant? Because you can then do power efficiencies on one chip. You have everything there. It's all there, right? But when you have a chip the way it's designed now, that it's completely external to the A series chip. You have the Broadcom Wi-Fi, chip, and then you have the Qualcomm chip. I don't even know how to say this, Chacha, but basically the way that I see it is the bottleneck is always going to be at the Qualcomm chip.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's signals there. There's definitely warning signs. Moose, do you think 2026 rolls around and Apple's ready to make that plunge and move away from Qualcomm?
At the rate that they're going, Chacha, where all they have to do is match the previous year's performance. So just to give you perspective, right? The iPhone 15 uses the X65 Qualcomm chip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apple just needs to match the previous Qualcomm chip performance, and they will be at par with what they are doing right now. That's, I think, going to be their goal for the moment, is if they are able to meet, and we talked about this prior to the call, right? The stream. If they are able to match the performance of the previous generation's X modem from Qualcomm, they will put the Apple modem in the cheaper versions of the phones, right? The regular iPhone number
17,
series,
18,
right?
19,
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they will keep the Qualcomm modems in the Pro models because
So let
they're
me
just
tell you
not
why
able
that
to.
makes sense, Moose. I'm going to tell you
Yeah,
why that makes sense.
go ahead.
Number
Go
one,
ahead.
you can have faith that the Qualcomm one is going to be somehow superior, right? Number two, they're paying for it. It's not in-house developed. It's not in-house manufactured, right? So it's going to be more expensive. So they can justify that in a pro model phone that's likely going to cost $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 in the next 2 to 3 years, right? So
Right.
that all makes sense. I'm with you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the other reason why, to keep the costs down on the entry level iPhone phone, right? The number plus the plus, right? So like, the 16, the 17, the 18,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They are going to have to pivot to the Apple modem because Qualcomm is charging them significantly more money than the Apple modem. It's going to be obviously cheaper because they
Yeah.
have a ridiculous deal with TSMC. So I'm willing to bet that probably by 2027, we will see that transition. They need more time.
Just not ready.
I know.
It's hard, Moose. It's a hard thing to do. I mean, look at Google, what they're going through.
Yeah.
Look how hard it is for them to make a phone that people are willing to pay for that's not named Samsung or Apple. And their
Yeah.
phone, the OS and the phone experience is good, but everybody, when it comes to just like, I just need it to work and I need it to be good and I don't want to have to think about it and I don't want it to be lesser. If it's the Android life, they're buying a Galaxy for that power horse, or that
Right.
horsepower, excuse me, and all that. And then, the iPhone folks are the iPhone folks. If they want
Right.
something powerful, they just make sure they buy something modern,
Right.
Yep, we'll see how it plays out. That is definitely interesting. The relationship with Qualcomm appears secure, seems pretty good. They're it's never gonna come a time, I think, where, Qualcomm can't produce enough chips, modems, excuse me, and whenever Apple's ready to make that plunge, Moose, I think they're gonna split it, kinda how you described. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's gonna be a signal that in the following year or two, maybe they're ready to truly walk away from Qualcomm. Do you think that day comes? Do you think there's a day where they walk away from Qualcomm completely and the in-house modems are good enough?
Chacha, this is so difficult, man.
Because Qualcomm just seems to continue to be the best.
And it's, because, and they have patents, right? They have really good
They're always
patents.
they're always up ahead,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Whatever they're doing in San Diego is so hot right now that for the foreseeable future, Qualcomm is the peak. And unfortunately, that's also bad, right? Because in order to get to that peak, you're going to have to spend more money in the research and development, in, whatever you got to do to make it happen, right? But, right, Samsung is even trying to pivot from Qualcomm, right? Did you see that, right? They're trying to do their own chips, right? Same with Google, right? The Tensor chip, right?
Yep.
They're trying to do it. So eventually, Qualcomm is going to be in a situation where they're definitely going to have to pivot even themselves away from the modems, because who's the biggest manufacturer in the world for phones? It's obviously, actually, I was going to say Samsung, but in actuality, it's still Huawei, right? They're still making
Yeah, because
hundreds of millions.
China's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
right. So, anyways, it's just a big deal. This news that happened minutes before the iPhone launch.
Same day.
Announcement. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yep, that's an interesting development. We got a Pixel launch coming up soon, Moose.
Yep.
Pixel 8, Pixel 8 Pro. We're probably getting are we getting another watch? Are we getting a new version of the Pixel watch? I'm not sure. I don't know if people are excited about those phones. I always get excited about them. I love the Pixel devices.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be getting a 15 Pro Max probably. We'll see what the Google Pixel brings to the table. I'll probably get the 8 Pro. I don't know if there'll be a watch. I don't know if I'm in the market for that Pixel tablet, that Pixel book or
Mhm.
whatever it's called. I kind of like it. Maybe I
Mhm.
could start editing and making content on that, with a pencil or something. My wife has the iPad Pro. I forget which generation she has, man, but it's got the pencil integration and
Mhm.
stuff. It's really nice, man. Thinking about getting some for myself. But right now, Moose, the channels, man, the YouTubes is tough right now, Moose. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna have to prioritize, right? Trying to afford
Right.
the iPhone, and we'll see what I can get going with the Pixel. We'll see.
Right.
Um, and I don't want to trade in my 14 Pro Max, Moose. I want to keep it.
Right.
I want to be able to have, the two iPhones. People always tell me, why don't you keep your old phones? You can continue to test those for the folks that have the older phones and want to see how they're performing. And at first I was like, it's just business. Like I can't, how many phones can I have?
Mhm.
I'm gonna sit there with a 1 year old phone that could probably return 500 or 600 bucks. I'm just gonna sit on that for another year.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Keep the 14 Pro Max, upgrade to a 15 Pro Max, get all my lines on that, all those profiles,
Mhm. Right.
and the 14 Pro Max for recording, you know, maybe put some extra lines on there. I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
But yeah, man, I gotta, you know what I gotta do, Moose? I gotta upgrade my S22.
Oh.
So that
Yeah.
like that phone's a little up in age.
Right.
So I think that this year I'll move up to the S24 for the latest and greatest in
Mhm.
cellular stuff. What
Right.
is that gonna be, the X75 modem?
So next year, definitely the X75. Yeah, you
Okay,
can even
'cause
Google it now, the X75, and it shows you exactly what's on there.
the specs?
Yeah. If you
Oh,
Google the
okay.
X75, it shows you exactly what's going to be on there. It's interesting, right? It's like they already tell you the modems a year in advance.
Yeah, they'll give you, like, an update in the Q4. They kinda, like, leak out certain bits and pieces of info,
Hmm.
so that's cool to know some of that stuff. Uh, I'm really hoping, Moose, that the gateways for the fixed wireless access providers, alright, so, like, Internet Air for AT&T, Verizon
Hmm.
5G Home, T-Mobile 5G Home Internet. I'm hoping that some of these newer modems work their way into some of these gateways, man. You know, like, are we gonna see gateways soon that are X70 modems? Like that's where I think we need to get to for fixed wireless access to truly be goated. External antennas, things to help signal, and performance, man. Where are you at with the gateways that the carriers are currently offering within fixed wireless access?
Oh man. It's interesting. You're absolutely right that these vendors that for fixed wireless, right? They need to get the best possible modems on there, right? Because that will also help the carrier sell the device more, like they sell the service more, right?
Higher quality of
Because
service, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
higher quality service, right? Absolutely. So it's just interesting, Chacha. It really is interesting.
I feel like we've been in the X55 range for the gateways for a while, and we got to get out of those doldrums, man. Like whatever gateway T-Mobile's going to use in the coming months and next year or so. Same thing with Verizon and the egg with AT&T. I just want to
Mhm.
start seeing those newer, modems that can do more with the cellular connectivity. Especially with all the C-band and DoD going and, coming on air,
Mhm.
all this
Mhm.
N41. There's spectrum, man. There's bandwidth out there, there's throughput, and, are we gonna start seeing some legitimate, 3, 4 carrier aggregation on these gateways? We need gateways to level up, Moose. That's my point, right?
Right.
And I think specifically more of the millimeter wave in play. I think more carriers gotta put some of that millimeter wave gear on macros, and getting
Yeah.
people on some of those channels. And the external antennas, man, that's where I think things can help.
Yeah, I mean what's interesting to me is this, Chacha, is that these fixed home wireless vendors, they're not your traditional vendors like Nokia, Ericsson, Samsung. They're
No,
some
it's
random, you
yeah,
know?
I okay, so, like, what was the one that I saw from Verizon back in the day? ASCII?
Yeah,
We've seen ASCII, we've seen Nokia with the trash can, but,
right.
like, what are they Sagecom?
Yeah,
Uh, there was another one, man, there was another I think it starts with a W, the one that Verizon was using. We got all these random ones. I just
right.
think it's whoever's able to give them the best price on these gateways, and they're not
Right.
necessarily getting the one that is the best performing.
Right. Right. Absolutely correct. And the other thing is that, all these carriers have to do this like RFP, right? Request for product, request for proposal, right? Like give me your best offer, everybody in the market, right? I'm asking for this type of device with these features, you know, can you make it for me and how many can you make in a year, That's another key thing in an RFP is like, okay, if I'm going to go with you, how quickly can I get these
Supply,
devices on market? Yeah,
right.
exactly. Right.
Well, that was
Because,
AT&T's thing because they had, like I think they have 3 active vendors.
and that's the other thing,
MS just said
it's
Arcadian, that's another one, yeah.
right. And this is another thing that we got to talk about, right, Chacha, is that, like for example, in the egg situation, right? I think the reason why the egg doesn't is not as widely available, right, is because of the supply constraints, right? Nobody expected the demand to be this high for fixed home wireless, man.
But let me tell you why they should've.
Right,
Look at what happened at T-Mobile.
right,
Look at what happened at Verizon.
right,
Each of them exceeded expectations and demand.
right,
Like, things are so good with Verizon and T-Mobile's home internet, they raised pricing.
right,
I mean, that's a clear indication that the demand is high and they feel comfortable raising the pricing, and they're unfazed by growth potentially slowing. Verizon
right.
basically said the demand is there, the churn rates are low, and we can raise pricing and we'll still hit our target of 4 to 5 million subs. If not, we're going to exceed it.
It's
T-Mobile
crazy,
basically
such
said the same thing, Moose. They got rid of the discount in its old structure, and now you have to be on the most expensive plan to get that discount, unless you're
right.
grandfathered, you know?
I was going to ask you this, Chacha. Do you think that these modems in these vendors are powerful enough when 5G SA is turned on, right? For, like we just saw, right? The X70 modem has 4 carrier aggregation in SA.
Yeah,
right?
but Moose, some of these gateways are like 3 generations behind.
See, we gotta upgrade those.
Yeah.
At this
Yeah.
point,
If the modems are 3 generations behind,
right?
I mean, at 2 generations behind, you should start talking about replacement. Because I always kind of look at gateways like they're always going to be at least 1 behind.
Mm-hmm.
I can accept 1 behind. So if gateways are coming out in their X65, I can deal with that. Pretty soon we got the X75 coming out, so I'll be cool with an X70 modem and a gateway. I can't have X50 and X55 modems and gateways, Moose. They're done.
Yep.
You're losing a lot of potential throughput that the RAN network can achieve, but your consumer premise equipment cannot utilize.
And by the way, right, the iPhone 12, first iPhone to have 5G, right? That was an X55, Chacha.
And we're telling people it's time to upgrade.
It's time.
Right,
100%
Moose?
it's
Because
time.
okay, so let's talk about that, right? That modem,
Right.
you do have C-band support, but you don't have DoD.
Right. No DoD.
And I'm
No
not sure
dish.
about no
No
SA,
dish.
right? No
No
dish.
dish.
You have limitations.
You're 4 generations behind.
It's crazy to think about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably some folks who are still out there that might have an S10 plus 5G, Moose.
I guarantee you'd be surprised how many people are still on an S10.
There might be some people on the S10 plus 5G or even the LTE version. And then you probably still got folks, obviously a larger, segment of the consumer group that has an S20 plus or whatever, 5G, S20 5G. There was a plus, there was an ultra,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're probably just now thinking maybe they're due for an upgrade. Maybe. But they would see a huge improvement in their performance, Moose. The antenna technology has improved greatly. The bandwidth, performance of with respect to throughput and aggregation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say they'd upgrade. I do think if you're going from if you're in an iPhone 12 and you held out on a 14 because you're like, I'll get the 15, I think the time is right, Moose.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing that I don't understand, Chacha. There's millions of people that still have an iPhone 10, 10s, 10s Max, and XR. Man,
Well, they're way back, Moose. They're
these
way back.
folks need to just upgrade this year. Seriously, okay? Whatever it takes. If you're still on a iPhone 11, it's time. Okay, it's very much time. If you're on an iPhone 12, it is definitely time. Okay.
If you're trying to be on a 5G phone
Yes.
and you know the value of 5G, then sure. Yeah, I agree.
And also, the reason why it's time is because if you're on an iPhone 12, this is how I see it, Chacha. If you're on an iPhone 12, this is the last year that your phone is going to be worth this much amount of money to qualify.
What's the trade-in, Moose?
Exactly what I'm saying, right?
What's the trade-in? What's the value for most?
Right. The iPhone 12 series is the last phone that is worth $200+ traded value.
Facts.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to switch at this point. You have to. Because if you don't, right, next year it's going to go down below 180, possibly, right? Anything is subject to change. And these phones are just not going to be worth it as much. That's why this launch is so critical. People need to step up if they can. Do not delay.
Yeah, and the deals are good when the carriers are promotionally active.
Right.
when they're at each other's throats, Yeah, so upgrading from a 12 makes sense. Depending on your carrier, I suppose. But I think from a 12 to a 15 Pro is a great upgrade. I think anything LTE based, right, Moose? 11 generation, 10 generation, XR, whatever, SE2, whatever. All those phones, they're all worthy of upgrades this year. How about a 13 Pro, Moose? Does it depend on the carrier? Does it depend on the carrier?
Well, see, this is why I go back to Chacha, the situation that we're talking about right now, right? It really depends on where you're at. Most people, if they bought the 13 Pro or Pro Max or 13 even, they are currently in the how do I say this? The like at the tail end of their 36-month upgrade cycle, right?
Yeah.
So you only have to pay $300 to upgrade, or even less, right? In some cases. So why wouldn't you upgrade at that point?
I wouldn't upgrade from a 14 Pro.
Yeah, that's what I was saying from the beginning, right? Is that unless you're on an iPhone upgrade program directly from Apple, there is literally no point in you upgrading. It just doesn't make sense. Now, the only reason why you may want to upgrade, Chacha, is if your battery has degraded past 80% in 1 year. That would be wild,
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen, man. Mine's at 89%, and I don't even know how, because I don't even, charge with, bad chargers. These are all from Apple, So, but going back to the things, right? There was an article that I was watching a video from. There's approximately 230 million devices this year that are ready to trade in, that are eligible to trade in.
But Moose, that's probably every year. It's around that number, right?
It's a lot of devices, Chacha. But also keep in mind this, Chacha, right? We got families that since the pandemic, or even slightly before the pandemic, I should say, right? 2017, 2018, their children may be eligible to get a smartphone this year. Christmas, launch day, right? All of these opportunities coming up, Chacha. I'm not going to be surprised if this next generation of kids may be getting their first phone much faster because of all the emergencies that we have seen lately.
Yeah. School related.
School related emergencies, shopping mall related emergencies, airport related emergencies, right? All of these emergencies require you to be connected, right? It doesn't matter which network. All that matters is that you're connected, right? So, there's always going to be fresh users into this ecosystem.
And they're getting their devices sooner than ever.
Like, for example, right? When do you believe that your daughter is going to get a phone?
9th grade.
Okay. You're very conservative then. Because I'm telling you, man, my neighbors have a guy, their oldest child is in 6th grade, and he got an iPhone 14. iPhone 14.
Oh, damn.
Yes.
I was thinking about possibly a watch, for messaging,
right?
Like to parental contact, but that's it.
I have another neighbor of mine that their daughter is in 5th grade and has a phone. And it's crazy. She has a 14 Pro, dog. I'm like, what? A kid having that much power? Oh my God.
And you got people going into the boost store trying to get a good deal on a 12, man.
Yeah, like the prepaid carriers, man, are gonna be making hand over fist, You know, think about it. The baseline phone that they should be selling is a 12. You know, if they have a 11 or a 10 or an 8, I don't think it's worth it at this point, honestly.
No, especially with the direction of network innovations and upgrades and modernizations.
Right.
You know, Moose, any other devices from the announcement that stoked your fire?
The watches were kind of whatever. The whole double tap thing, not that big of a deal. I think that it was, from the first video, what they're saying is that by having Apple devices, they may potentially save your life. That's how I took away from it, right? Like there was a bunch of these people that they celebrated their birthday this year because of an Apple device, either mentioning to them, hey, you have AFib, or you have a weird arrhythmia, or you're going to get a heart attack, right, from their watch, or crash detection because of their phone, right? Or there was another one where it's like they were stuck in the mountains and SOS was able to reach them, the SOS feature. They were able to send a text message. I will say this, Chacha. The next frontier in telecom is going to be satellite. There was an article, I believe, from Light Reading or from Fierce, I forgot which one, that is Verizon's satellite strategy. What is their strategy? Because it seems like they don't have a strategy, right?
Well, it's not like publicly and explained, like
right.
It must be under wraps, kind of behind closed doors. There's stuff going on, but we don't get any public disclosures.
Right. I know that they were trying to do something with Amazon, right? But we haven't heard anything from them, right? AT&T just did a press release very recently within the last 3 weeks saying that they are able to get 10 Mbps from the space.
I mean, that's pretty,
right?
That's a great step, right?
Right. It's a good step, right? Because that means that you're able to have iMessage connectivity
instantaneous.
easily.
Yes.
Right. Instantly. No problem. In the middle of nowhere. Right.
Yep.
Technically speaking, with 10 Mbps, you can get a FaceTime call. No problem.
Yeah, that's true. We got our first super chat of the night,
Nice.
Moose, from a member. S Blue Tech, big salute to you. Thank you for supporting the channel. You guys know how rough it's been in these YouTube streets. Taking care of your favorite creators, an essential part of the SMT Nation. S Blue Tech says, I may have missed something. Is it confirmed as to which modem the 15 and 15 Pro will have? Band support seems to be the same as the 14. So I think that is correct. I think the 14 generation iPhone and the 15 generation iPhones, band support are basically the same. I don't think much has changed. The NR bands, the LTE bands, I think those are all the same. With respect to the modems, the 15 will have the same. Is it all the same modems between all the 15s, Moose?
Yes.
Okay,
so no. Sorry. The Pro modems are X70 and the regulars are
X65.
X65.
Got you. So the last year flagship modem.
Right.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I did see N14 mentioned on the band list. I saw M30 and 29. Some of the more future bands, I suppose, for AT&T. I did see the N48. That's going to be important for Verizon. I saw some of the millimeter wave stuff too mentioned, but it's the standard millimeter wave. I didn't see the new one, that 47 gigahertz that we're supposed to see. But I don't think carriers have RAN equipment for it yet either. So they didn't certify it, They're international phones, N77, N79, N78. You get the whole C-band treatment and all that stuff, N41, it's all there. Thanks, Esplutech. Appreciate the support, man. Broke the seal for super chat of the night. All right. Moose, we covered everything, man. Is there anything you want to kind of just to tie up any loose ends or discuss before we close out the show? Well, the goal was to keep it about an hour. We're at an hour and 20 minutes, so we did decent.
I did pretty good. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, right, is that we're seeing a trend now, right? To recap what we talked about, The iPhone 14 Pro got repackaged. It's now called an iPhone 15, the base model now. So basically, that seems to be now what's going to end up happening, right? Because the same thing happened. The 13 Pro was repackaged into the 14, right? So lots of different things to discuss there. If you want the latest and greatest Wi-Fi technology and Thread technology for IoT devices in your home, you go with the Pro model. And additionally, you go with the Pro model because it's the X70 modem versus the X65 on the regular 15 and plus model. It offers an additional 1 carrier aggregation band, totaling 4 carrier aggregation on standalone 5G. Very important for, actually every single carrier eventually is going to migrate over, but it's specifically important for AT&T because they already have N66, N2, N5, and obviously N77, including the DoD and the 3.7 C-band. When we talk about the improvements to the modem technology, it's realistically just a slight upgrade, definitely better power consumption, but not that big of a deal, really. Like if you're at a 14 Pro, do not upgrade. You don't need the upgrade. If you're at a 12, yes. Anything below that, absolutely. If you're at a 13, questionable. I think that's the recap, Chacha. What do you think?
Solid. You did it well, Moose. All right.
And then the last thing, right, which was the Qualcomm Apple deal, right? I think
right.
that's the big one, right?
That's
that one is
looking
definitely
down the line, something to monitor. We know we're always going to get a good iPhone, right? It's always going to be a good device. It's always going to be, a great experience. When it comes to the ecosystem, Moose, they got everybody roped in, services, apps, devices, Apple Store, Apple Care, the whole thing together works for people, and it's become a lifestyle thing. We didn't talk much about the USB-C, but that makes people's lives easier too, Moose.
The transfer speed, right? But
for the Pro,
for the Pro, not for the regular. The regular is gimped. It's halved. Actually, not even halved. It's terrible. It's probably it's less than 10% of what the real capability is. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, I know the Chacha's going to get it. He needs to test the CLE. I'm definitely going to get it. Got to test out various parts. I'll be taking it to Mexico, next month. So I'll be able to report in, right, what's going on into international. But, right, every month, every week, every day, there are going to be more C-band upgrades from Verizon and AT&T. There's going to be more backhaul upgrades from all 4 carriers, all 3 carriers. I know even Dish is getting some love, right, Chacha? There's improvements in Dish. I saw your X, formerly Twitter account. You posted some stuff there. And I think the big deal, right, Wi-Fi 6E on the Pro models. I'm definitely... See, this is the thing, Chacha, right? If I was a consumer with a Wi-Fi 6 mode router that I do have right now, is it time to upgrade? But is it time to upgrade when I know Wi-Fi 7 is just on the horizon?
Well, you upgrade when you can, if you can, and it's not something to lose sleep over and worry about. It's always just a timing thing. You know what I'm saying, Moose?
Right.
You're gonna sit there and wait for the next best thing. You're never gonna buy anything.
Exactly.
So you just pull the trigger and get it, and then enjoy it for the time you have it, and then move on from it and upgrade to something else. Moose, you're the best, bro.
Thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure,
man. Yeah, big shout out to the SMT Nation. Big shout out for the super chat from S Blue Tech and all the supporters, viewers, subscribers, channel members, and the patrons. You guys are the goats. Thank you. And then for anybody that just recently I've been receiving coffees. Thank you. Big salute to them supporting the channel. The SMT Nation literally lifting the channel because YouTube's is being it's getting rough out here, folks. So don't forget about your creators. support us. We'll continue to make the best content we can, and do it all the time. We do it with commentary videos, news, testing, reviews, and podcasts, and we're going to continue to do it the best here. Big shout out to Moose for joining me. Big shout out to all my mods, all my viewers, subscribers, channel supporters, y'all the goats, and we out this piece. Peace.